Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Rogers Television broadcast of our Remembrance Day services. Today we're going to be going to Streetsville, where Rada Taylor is going to be covering the parade that's going to the Cenotaph. This year it's as poignant as any other year, but with the two soldiers that died practically 2 weeks ago, it brings home to us the reverence of what Remembrance Day means. In October, we had two Canadian soldiers who died here in Canada, Nathan Cirillo and Patrice Sant. These two Canadian soldiers died not in a faraway land, but they died in our shores. In Quebec and Ontario. Patrice Vincent was a 53-year-old gentleman. He was a soldier. He died on October 20th after being struck by a car in Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu in Quebec in a targeted attack. 2 days later, if you recall, Nathan Cirillo gun and shot the gentleman dead. Kevin Vickers actually was just recently cited by the Israeli government. The Knesset has given him a commendation, as well as the French government. So interesting. We always talk about poppies, and we talk about Remembrance Day, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about poppies. Poppies, and I don't know if you, just to digress for a second, if you've been watching on television, fight for freedom and serve our country in far-off lands. So unfortunately, we can't say as a result of so many wars that it's ended. But when you see such a visual representation as that, it truly has meaning. I could share a personal story. My father-in-law, Alan Osterbauer, he was a young lad of 15, 16 years old, born in Calgary, Alberta, and wanted to fly a plane. He couldn't fly a plane in Canada, so at his age, and he went to England. Subsequent to 3 tours of duty, Alan flew a Spitfire. He was shot down 3 times, twice in the English Channel, once in the Red Sea. And when you look back and you think of all those times and what those men and women did, it was quite something. Every year I wear my poppy, and when I take my poppy off, I take it and I place it in his photograph, a military photograph that all soldiers took before they went off to war. And on his framed photo, which I was so happy that I could show him before he left this life, and I showed him how I placed a poppy always on that. So it's reverence. We cannot forget all the things that all these people did. Again, we're looking forward to contacting Rada Taylor. Rada Taylor is on site in Streetsville, and she's at the. It's interesting, the meaning of a cenotaph. I was going to go on to poppies, but I want to talk a little bit about cenotaphs. Cenotaphs, they talk about standing guard, and the reason why that there were soldiers standing guard was a cenotaph was generally located in the center of the city. And the reason that they had a guard standing there doing all-night watch or standing guard was to make sure that any of the soldiers who were passed away, first of all, did not rise, in a sense, were they victims of a concussion and were not dead. But more importantly, that they were not taken away by scavengers, or they were not abused in any way by foreign soldiers and taken advantage of. So the guard stands there overnight in a vigil to stand over the dead, to make sure that they are taken care of, and also respect. It was actually that act that Nathan Cirillo was doing, if you wish, standing guard during the day at our War Memorial in Ottawa. A poignant time to reflect. We're expecting greater crowds this year, not because it's any worse or any better, but because of the 2 Canadian soldiers that were killed. We know how they were killed and who they were killed by, but that's not the message of what we're doing here today. What we're trying to do is show respect, show reverence, and to hope that everybody will come together in respect for what all those people did. Many times we talk to people in our community who say that so many of those soldiers died for what we have to appreciate today. And many of those values and many of those things that they fought for, some would say, are being slowly eroded, and that we should stand as society changes and as we mature and as things naturally change, Our values in that change, and some things in government and some things socially will change. But we really do have to remember those who gave their lives in World War I, World War II, the Korean War, Afghanistan, Iraq, so many more. To keep a vigilant presence and a tradition to always remember Remembrance Day. You know, the red poppy became a familiar emblem of Remembrance Day due to a Canadian. It was the poem in Flanders fields. The poppies bloomed across some of the worst battlefields in Flanders fields in World War I. Their brilliant red color is appropriate and disturbed. Also, that has a lot of lime in it. And they also grew in large numbers on the battlefields. The red color of the petals reminded people of the blood lost by so many victims. John McCrae, as I said, he was a Canadian. He was referred to have been associated with the war since the Napoleonic times, and he was a writer who was first noted how poppies grew on the graveyards. Flanders Fields, we'll share that poem with you, which is such a tradition of Remembrance Day. We now introduce our second member of our broadcast crew today. In Streetsville, the lovely and talented Rada Taylor is standing by for the Streetsville Parade. Good morning, Rada, on this beautiful